Welcome to Total Money Management. I'm back with Steve Moriarty again. How you going, Stephen?
I'm good, mate. I am
Surviving.
excellent.
Good week in the markets?
Good week, yeah. Well, the ASX only went up about 0.5%. We're talking November 25, 29. So, not too bad. But it's all, Folks, this is Steve with week 8 of Yes, Folks, It's All Bloody Expensive. Yes, folks, it's all good.
Well, let's start with your little cartoon here, mate, that you're so obsessed with. It's not the bull market. You really are. Is that what you tell yourself every morning?
Oh, dear. I was just, like I was just saying, oh, God. Look, honestly, there was, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Nasib Taleb said, people don't realise they're making history when they're making history, right? And so what he meant was, in World War One, they didn't go on the brink of World War One. Guy shoots, the art jerk, right? They don't go, man, we're about to make a world war with history, right? It's just stuff, right? But what I know is, like I said to you, it's just everything's expensive, and that's really rare. But it's also why I'm laughing, but also very, very concerned, because these are the paradigm changes, and this is what sort of happened in the late 70s. Was when we had inflation, there were riots in the US cities. Cities were awful, and it was because of inflation, right? And it really sent people to the wall because they were struggling. Oil went from $3 a barrel to 10. Right now it's like 80, right? And we're going, oh man, and and then it went up again, right? And we had the Israeli war, right? The Egypt war. Because you're caught up in the day-to-day stuff, you don't ever sit back and go, man, this is going to be talked about in 50 years. Like people will be saying, oh, I remember in 24 after COVID, or, remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and Israel, got attacked by Hamas, and, remember Donald Trump? Oh, man, That's where things, I think, anyway, that's why we talk about the new normal as being on the periphery of substantial change.
Yeah.
And that's why I just, having everything batshit crazy expensive doesn't help.
No.
Right?
Well, it's a catalyst. It just adds fuel to the fire.
Well, yeah. At some point, everybody goes, we've had enough paying $4.50 for Doritos, and we're rioting in the streets, right?
Well, look, it's a zero. Investing is a zero-sum game. Every single transaction, someone wins,
Yep.
someone loses,
Yep.
and we often forget that because it's just a button on the screen.
Yeah. I win, I lose, and the more you win, the more you tend to think you're going to win, and you're not.
Well, you're like this guy.
Yeah. It's not the bull market, it's me.
This is me every morning going, you're a genius.
Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin.
We're getting we'll have our new tops next week, our new TMM podcast shirts.
That's it. Righto.
Steve says, buy Bitcoin.
Yes.
Which will be fun. And they're online for
And Jacob says, buy the dip.
All right. Speaking of buying the dip, are we going to buy a house?
Well, no.
On Monday?
Because all the rich people are buying them. Stop it, you rich people.
Oh, it's such a distortion.
It is, yes. It's very serious. What it is, and we're going to talk about this in the property special, because it is the...
Well, the property special's already been out, Stephen.
Oh, it is? Is it? Yes, it is. Of course it is.
We have talked about it.
That's right. In the property special on December the 11th, yes, it is really important, because this is why I keep talking about income distribution. It really distorts the economy, and what you've got at the moment is banks lending to rich people because rich people have got the money to actually pay the loan. Yeah. So rich people go, I want assets because they're rich. They're not interested in buying Doritos. They want to buy more properties, and so that's what's going on. So
it elevates the amount of properties that wealthy people can own and squashes everyone else.
So I go along as a first home owner, a first time buyer, right? And I go, I'm going to bid on this property. You come along earning $500,000 a year, and I bid 1.2 million. You smash me out of the park with 1.4, and I go, right, okay, that's the end of me.
Yeah.
So you end up with the house, and all the wealthy people are collecting houses, right? Because that's the assets they're familiar with. The rents are strong at the moment. everybody's talking about property, right? And so people go, hey, I'll buy another property, right? Because you've got a really good cash flow. Old people, right? We bought a house 40 years ago for 40 grand and now it's worth, 3 million. So now we're leveraging or we're taking money out of that to give to the kids to buy a property so they can outbid someone else. So it's, rich people and then the banker mum and dad, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, as I say, we did discuss that as the central problem.
Well, I mean, I've got a real life example. My partner's grandparents sold up in Darwin. They bought a house for 60 grand or whatever in the 1430s. And then, I love them. And then they sold in Darwin for 850, 900,000 and bought in the sunny coast just before the Sunshine Coast went
Oh, really?
Batshit. So they bought a house for 6, sold for 850, bought one for 6. That's now worth 1.4.
Right.
In 6 years or whatever it's been.
Good for them.
And they've just, I went up last week and they're like, Jacob, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Sunny Coast, I think, is the most expensive in Australia, 1.5 or something.
Oh, it's absolutely batshit. But these are people they don't know any different. They served in the war. They just.
But they've got capital, Jacob. You see, they've got capital, and that's what that's what you've got to have. If you've got the first million, it's easy to make money after that because you've got the first million.
Yeah.
You can make a mistake and go, okay, that was bad, cost me 100 grand. Yeah, but that's okay, I've still got 900.
Yeah.
If you make a big mistake when you've only got 100 grand, it really knocks you around.
Well, now the issue is they don't know what to do. So, like, they're not educated people. And it goes to last week's podcast, I think, which is how much do you know versus what don't you know. And they've got no idea.
Yeah. Look, as I say, it's hard. Everything's expensive. We got income distribution's really distorted. It has been for 40 years. And it's a problem. But the other problem is Donald Trump.
El Donaldo.
Just on Tuesday, Donald Trump came out and said, I'm going to put 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Canada seems stupid.
It's the same with Mexico. The Mexican president came out and said, listen, Buffett, you're talking about Trump wants to get rid of the cartels, which are controlling the flow of illegal immigrants.
And drugs.
Right? And drugs, right? So Trump wants to get rid of the illegal immigrants, i.e. get rid of the cartels. And he talked about, guns and all that sort of stuff. And she rightly pointed out, the Mexican president rightly pointed out and said, mate, the guns are coming from you.
Yeah.
You Americans make all these goddamn guns and send them to Mexico.
And then they end up back.
Yeah, so... but look, Jesus, I don't know. Donald Trump, the tariffs and the thing that concerns me about Trump is, and I thought about this because I said a couple of weeks ago, he's a transactional president, right? But, what Donald Trump really is corrupt.
A fire starter.
Well, Trump is in it for Trump, right? He's always been that way. Right, he's had numerous fraud allegations. He's at a university that did the wrong thing. 3 weeks ago or something, there was buy Trump guitars. I mean, Jesus Christ, is there anything this bloke won't sell with his name on it? Trump Bible, the Trump guitar, Trump shoes. It's like, oh God, really? This is the president of the United States, right? And it's not as if he's not short of a quid. But my point being that because I know some people will be going, Donald Trump's great, and I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying the problem for markets will be, well, what the hell is this guy going to do next? We don't know. And markets hate uncertainty. So the problem with Trump is he's transactional, but it's not even transactional. It's really just saying what's in it for me personally, not America. Me personally, and that makes it really difficult, right? Because I can just see where it's going to get to a point where, he and that other idiot Elon Musk are going to be doing stuff that is just absolutely, ridiculous, and it may cause a lot of chaos.
Well, it's a lot of the decisions have to go through Senate, though, right? It has to be approved.
Congress and stuff.
Congress,
yes and no. Trump's still got a lot of power with executive orders and stuff. And you see, Trump works on the sort of gangster mentality, which is, I'll bully you into submission.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like a lot of the gangsters, Trump's got a lot of power with the American economy. So Europe has basically folded and gone, oh, Jesus, just do what he says so we can continue the way it is. Well, Trump loves that stuff because then you become submissive to him.
Yeah, it's the power that he actually
absolutely. So, at least the Mexican president said to him, hey, listen, sport, hang on a second here. Let's just have a think about this. Because all the American manufacturers, right, the automobile manufacturers, most of the parts are made in Mexico. So they're going to tariff their own cars. I mean, I'm not saying tariffs are bad, but I'm saying, Donald, we might need to think this through a little bit.
Well, and even Canada, I think, I could be wrong, but 60 to 70% of import-export is between US and Canada. For Canada.
Yeah.
So they're looking at this going, hang on a minute.
Well, the US imports, I think it's Canadian, there's a Canadian oil, I think, and it might be the light crude oil, or there's a type of thing. What Trump is saying is we're gonna pay you 30% more for importing the stuff that we don't have. Well, that's a really dumb idea, right? We don't have this oil, but Jacob, I'm not giving you $70 a barrel anymore. I'm going to give you 100. Yeah. You'd be going, great, fantastic, I love it, right?
But in reverse, all the things that Canada has to import from
the
America
US
is going to be twice as much anyway.
Well, yeah, but it mightn't be that much. That's why when we talked about it a few weeks ago, I said you've got to work out what it does structurally between the savings and investment, and I'm not going to bore you with that now, but also too about, well, is it on semiconductors the Americans don't produce? But you've got to remember too, what they're aiming to do is they're not aiming to say, we want China to change. What they're really doing is saying, we want you companies to come back to America. That's the goal, right? And I think that's where economists are reading them wrong. The economists think, what they're trying to do is just get China to open up the markets. Well, my argument is no. What they're trying to do is stop China from building the latest missiles so they can attack America and have more influence around the world. So it's not about economics. It's now about politics again, right? It's partly economics by saying, look, Jacob, we want you to bring your factory back to America and we're going to put tariffs on it to help you come back. But it's certainly not about saying, look, we just want you to change a few things but you can stay in China and sell China the latest, semiconductors. It's like, no, that's not the goal, guys.
It's like a power struggle, like a control struggle.
Yeah, well, there was a review just done recently, the American-China relationship, right? And there's a report on it. I'll talk more about it in the future. But there's a lot of recommendations that are basically saying, listen, we're not interested in having a trade relationship. We're interested in securing our own borders and, running the show.
Yeah.
And which is a lot different from just going, because as I said, economists are going, tariffs won't work and this and that and this and that. And it's like, guys, it's not about making Doritos, $2.50 more expensive or whatever. It's about politics and national security, right? And that the economics is just the vehicle to make it painful enough for companies to say, oh, man, let's just go and set up in Texas.
Yeah. It's the afterthought.
Well, this is where I think it's going to be really hard for Elon Musk. I think Musk and Trump will have a falling out.
Yeah, well, you've got two big personalities like that.
Yeah, but Elon Musk's interest is he's got an enormous bloody gigafactory in China.
Yeah, well, he wants to...
And Donald hates electric vehicles. See, you've got to remember, 2 or 3 years ago, might even longer, actually, Elon Musk, there's a tweet, of Donald Trump sitting at the presidential desk with Elon Musk standing beside him, right? And Trump was saying, he should be down on his knees, blah, blah, blah. Well, at that level, they're just friends by association. They're not wholesome buddies who really deep down love each other.
Oh, and love America.
And love America, right? They're just in it for the dosh.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the power. Anyway. Wednesday, everyone's in the pool.
Yep.
So investor sentiment is at extreme. So actually, let's talk about the fear and greed index.
Yep.
Because it's a good one. You see it splashed around socials everywhere. But what it's basically saying is investor sentiment is extremely high. Everyone's extremely greedy. There's a lot of fresh blood in the market, particularly investing in the US market, being 75% of all
global market cap.
Cap. And what that means is that there's a high likelihood that it can't stay in extreme greed, but that's also the time where people are more scared. So as soon as something goes wrong, it goes, shit, we're getting out of the market, and it rug pulls itself.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It just reaches a tipping point where a lot of it is involved in margin debt. That's why at this point of the game, margin debt is really good to look at, right? The level of margin. Now, the reason why is because if you're making 11% and I'm making 8%, Bill comes to me and says, Steve, you're a loser. I'm going to take my $2 billion out and give it to Jacob because he's making 11. So what do? I leverage up. So I get a margin loan and I go in and buy NVIDIA, 3 times leveraged ETF NVIDIA to try and compete with your 11. Then the market turns down. Then I go, holy Jesus, now I've got this margin loan. Then, Tom, the margin bank, rings me and says, Steve, we need you to, stump up $100 million for the margin loan. What do I do? I've got to sell stocks.
Yeah, or you get called.
Yep. And so that's what happens. And that's why it goes down often. The stock market, as opposed to property, generally goes down a lot quicker because there's more margin involved. And the more it falls, you get momentum on the downside, right? So as you're rising, you get more margin coming in, and as you're falling, you get more margin calls, which means you get more money leaving.
And it's the simple fact that it's easier to sell a stock than it is to sell something like a house.
Yeah, well, so you just click a button and
if the
you might like the price, but at least you got rid of it.
Well, like GFC is a classic example. Yeah, everything went to hell in a handbasket, and people click, sell, and the whole thing just went to shit.
And it's indiscriminate. People sell winners, losers, everything.
Problem is, if there's no one on the other side to buy, you get all that slippage.
Yes, but there's always someone to buy. The question is, and this is why I say, and you said it last week, I think, every asset's owned by somebody. All we're arguing is about the price.
Yeah.
So you own it, you're losing money, and you come to me and say, Steve, I want you to buy it. And I go, yeah, 93, I don't think so. You've still got it, right? You're still losing money. So then you come back and go, Steve, 85. And I go, no, maybe I'm warming to it. You come back and go, oh, Jesus, Steve, 75. And I go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, now I own it. That's a hell of a lot different from you owning it at 120 and I own it at 75.
Yep.
Right? And it's the same property or it's the same stock in, a good quality stock or whatever. But what I'm saying is that, we're arguing over the price. All the houses out there are owned by somebody who bought them at a price. And they're intending to sell it at a higher price. Now, if they can't get the higher price, they don't go to the bank and go, look, bugger it. I don't want to own the house anymore. It's like, dude, it's yours. You got to sell it. And if they can get 900 and they paid $1 million, well, they got to lose 100,000.
Take the loss. Right? Yep. So that's the fear and greed index. So basically, you want to buy when there's extreme fear.
Absolutely. Blood in the streets, when the cape's low, when everybody goes, oh my God, don't buy stocks. They're awful. We're all going to die tomorrow.
That's what Steve's in rubbing his
That's
hands.
what I'm waiting for.
But Americans are happy.
They're happy. They're all in the market. Congratulations, America. Best of luck.
56% of Americans think stock prices will trade higher over the next 12 months.
Yes, and 56% of Americans obviously know
everything about the stock market.
Yeah.
We don't need to even go
100% of the 56% know bugger all about stocks, but it's going to be better next year.
It sells a good article, a good newspaper.
Clickbait.
Friday. So when you make money from people buying and selling stocks and assorted investment products, it's a no-brainer that you will be bullish. So this is basically saying that Wall Street's issuing a bullish outlook on the S&P for 2025.
That's a surprise, eh?
When have they ever gone the other way? Unless it's absolutely certain, like in a GFC.
No one's certain, mate. Even in the GFC, they were going, yep, good time to buy, turn around soon. Good time to buy, turn around soon.
Well, they're getting 1%, aren't they?
Yep.
For people being invested. So, yeah, if you're looking at this and going, shit, it must be right. If Wall Street's saying it, then you probably need to look at it. Well, you need to look in the mirror and tell yourself you're not a genius.
Wall Street is the contrarian indicator, mate.
Yeah.
If they start saying everything's fantastic, that's when you go to cash. Well, as we said last week, Buffett's selling, Bezos is selling. The insiders are selling a lot. Well, what do they know that you don't? Maybe that their stock's overvalued. Maybe they've seen these markets before and gone, I better find an idiot that's going to buy my stocks.
Well, Buffett's latest letter that you sent, I think you sent it to Tom and I last week, is quite interesting. But it's basically he's an old man.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's trying to get himself in order.
Yep.
Maybe we'll put something on the
Yeah,
screen.
I think, that's right. Yeah, Buffett came out and said, I'm going to leave it all to the public or something, all to the charities. Charities run by his kids that pay them $10 million a year.
Yeah.
Tax-free. The old bastard, he still won't pay any tax, He baggers on about that all the time. Oh, charge me more tax. It's like, just bloody well pay it, you old bastard.
Yeah.
But he won't. No, he's going to leave all that money to the foundation, right, to his kids. And honestly, he says, my thing is give your kids enough money to do something, but not enough so as they do nothing. Yeah. It's like, mate, you've given them fucking 250 million. I mean, honestly, you know what I mean? Like you go, oh, that's so good. And then you think of it and go, yeah, I'm going to put my kid in charge of my $50 billion foundation.
Yeah. We love Buffett. We love him, though.
I know, but he's so American.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's just like, don't pay any tax, right? Avoid tax. That's the best thing you can do, right? And it's just, he's driven on the roads. He's used the water system, all of that sort of stuff. He owns bloody half of it. But, he rabbits on as if he's an archangel, when, you do look at it and go, Warren, come on, mate.
Yeah.
Seriously, you've set up everything so, your main purpose in life is avoiding tax.
Yeah.
Right? And buying monopoly companies.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He's still a hero to me.
Oh, yeah. Look, everything Warren says is really good. It makes absolute sense. I get it. But however,
you're questioning his morals.
Well, no, because, he's 94, so he's not going to change. No. But it's just my point of saying he's not a sweet old man like you think he is.
Yeah.
He's a deal maker.
He's cutthroat.
Right?
Properly cutthroat.
Absolutely. He's a deal maker.
You can't be that successful and not be.
Generally, yeah. Yeah, unless you win the lotto.
Oh, and then you piss it at the wall anyway.
Well, or your relatives come and
take it all off you.
Give your kids a foundation.
So this goes to what we were talking about last week. Smart money is dumb money that's been through a crash.
Yep.
So people getting in at the top of a market, inevitably losing all their cash because they don't know anything, and then going through that learning process.
Yeah.
I think it's very smart.
It's just a lot of superannuation, most people have got super, right? And what you don't realise is the thing that saves you is having an income and dollar cost averaging, right? The reason why is because I try to explain to people there's a difference between investing when you've got a stream of income and investing when you've got just one pile of money with no income, right? And you need different approaches, right? But the fundamentals of investing are the same when you're investing in a multi-period time frame. So what I mean is it's not like saying I've got, it's January the 1st and now I've got to invest all my money now. We know that's not true. In super, it comes out every month, but you've got to have an income to get into the super. And my argument is, well, why do you dollar cost average if you know about market cycles and stuff where you can say, for example, at the moment, the S&P dividend yield is like 1.1%. Okay, well, why are you putting $1,000 a month into the S&P?
Put it in cash and then
leave it there. For God's sake, go and buy bonds. At least they're paying 4.5%.
Yeah.
But my point being, it's a lot different. You can do that and make mistakes because you've got 30-year runway. So you might come out and say, oh, Steve, I made lots of mistakes, but I made 3%. I could have made 8 if I'd have understood it, but I made 3. So you look at it and go, oh, well, bugger, but at least you didn't go, I had 100 grand and I speculated and now I've got 40 grand, but I don't have any more income. That's when you go, oh man, that's nasty.
Totally different approach.
Absolutely.
So if I was to say to you, Steve, I'm only going to give you 100 grand. You've got 30 years, but I'm only going to give you 100 grand.
You've got to think about,
a lot differently.
Yeah, you would be sitting there going, okay, I'll wait till I get a really good offer.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than go, oh, well, 30 years and I'm getting, Steve said he'd give me 100 grand and $1,000 a week so I can live. Oh, well, I'll just plunk it all in the market.
Yeah.
right? Because you've got your 1,000 a week to survive. And that's what investing is about. The number one rule is you've got to survive.
Don't lose money.
Well, if you go bankrupt, you're out of the game, buddy.
Yeah.
Or it's a long way back at least, right?
That's smart. All right, we've got the short story. So Trump. We've talked about that.
Donaldo.
What's this one here? The shipping.
Oh, that's just, that's just the response from Beijing saying what they're going to do is they're going to respond to the tariffs. And I think they came out during the week, November 20, whatever we are, 9 or something. I think they did come out during the week saying, okay, we're going to look at some of the places where we've got a lock and we're going to look at those. So in other words, they've already started a bit of a lock on, I think it was graphite processing, where they said, okay, Chinese companies to export now need a license, i.e. we're gonna short the graphite market, right? We're going to keep it undersupplied.
Right. When was the I'm just having a thought. When was the Great Depression? 20s.
29.
29. So I was reading something the other day where the last time tariffs were this high from the US, other countries put tariffs back on the US.
Yeah.
And that caused the Great Depression.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Great Depression was also, you got to remember, in 20 to 29, the stock market went absolutely gangbusters. And why did it? Debt.
Right.
They leveraged up in debt, but then they leveraged up because they were inventing these things called washing machines.
Right. White goods.
Televisions. And it was like every house has got to have a washing machine, so all these, quote, labour-saving devices.
Right, okay.
But they had a thing called the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. I won't go into it. But anyway, yes, if you tariff someone, they usually go, right, well, we're going to do the same.
Tariff you back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, China can, as we said, say, all right, well, they put 10% tariff on us. We'll just drop the currency 10%. There you go. We've just negated the tariff.
Right, okay.
Right? But there's other issues with that. Yeah. But this is why I'm saying this is not just a trade war. Right? China is struggling. The economy is having a bit of trouble. The last thing they want is a fight. But Xi will go to the fight saying, righto, well, you guys are waiting, you guys get aluminium processing off us, you get all these middle processors that were environmentally dirty that you didn't want. We took them on. Now we've got a lock on the global economy. We're going to put export licenses or, stuff like that, where we then go, oh, holy shit, we're going to have to pay a lot more for rare earths. And besides that, we have to because no one else does it except China. That's where you then go, oh, hang on, these tariffs on Chinese T-shirts may not be, that big a deal. It's like, this is why I say it gets ugly, right? And it might get ugly for 5 or 10 years at least.
Yeah, well, moving into the new normal, right?
Yeah, and we can, America can do, there's aluminium processing, for example, is not rocket science. But you just don't walk into Texas and go, oh, look, we'll just kick it off and we'll be right to go in a month. That's not the way it happens, right? And the reason why a lot of manufacturing moved out of Western countries or advanced countries was because of the environmental regulations.
I see,
Right? So we just go and dump all that shit in China, right? Because they want to do that shit, so let them do it. And they can
do it for cheap.
they can pollute their rivers, and their rivers are terribly polluted, and the air pollution's awful, right? Because we dumped all the crappy stuff. So we said to China, listen, you do all that really highly toxic stuff for rare earths and then just give us the smartphones, right? And then we can go and carry on and go, we love cheap smartphones, realising that, China's polluting the waterways and killing young kids and, African mining, is terrible with child labour and all that stuff. But we don't see that. All we do is just go, I just want a latest iPhone, right? And then when we go, okay, well, we're going to bring it back here, and we go, yay, that's really good. Manufacturing, creating jobs. It's like, yeah, here's all these toxic chemicals we need. And we go, oh, hang on a second.
We got rid of this for a reason.
Exactly right. See, guys like you don't know that because you're only 30.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just going, yeah, cool, whatever. Just give me an iPhone. I'm going, Jacob, it's a little bit more complex than that, right? Yeah. That's the issue, right? And a lot of us are going to start finding out about that.
Oh, we'll be paying a lot more.
Well, you've got a choice. You either pay a lot more, or you leave it the way it is. But that's why I'm saying economists have got this wrong, because we can't leave it the way it is, right? We can no longer say, all right, listen, Russia, let's just chill out and let's go back to the old way, right? And you don't invade Ukraine and, we won't push up on the border, right? We can't go back and say to China, listen, let's all just, take a chill pill and go back to the way we were, right? You guys keep making that shit and we'll just keep taking it, right? You can't do that anymore. So that's why it's a messy period with a lot of volatility.
Yeah, I think it's important. Let's move on to the lesson of the week. So this is something that we work through with our clients, and we're talking about macro rebalancing. Steve, I might pass to you because you've obviously taught this 1,000 times.
Yep. It's just one thing the markets seldom talk about, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about what the markets do is talk about events, right? This week the ASX went up 0.5% and iron ore fell $2 and oil went up $3. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, it just means the market went up 0.5%. Okay, well, what do I do? Do I buy? Do I sell? What's the story? Now, what I'm pointing out is you've got to have a macro perspective to say, Steve, the market went 0.5%. Oh, okay. And the CAPE ratio is at 38. Oh, okay. That's more important.
Yeah.
Right? It goes, next week it'll go down 0.5%. Okay, was it important that it went up 0.5% last week? Nah. The important bit is saying, dude, the CAPE ratio is at 38.5 and everybody's in the pool.
Yeah.
So that's the important bit. So what I'm saying here is, if you look at this chart, and this was created, 80 years ago now, probably, about 70. What I'm saying is, if you look at this zero line, right, let's say that's the normal CAPE of it. This is not a chart of CAPE.
No.
Right, it's a chart just of the current PE, but I'm going to extrapolate it with CAPE. Right, so let's say zero is a CAPE of 17, which is the average.
Yeah.
Righto, draw your eye up. Excuse me. You got 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds, right, or something else. Generally bonds, and that is what they call is the standard portfolio, right? 60 stocks and 40 bonds. Just keep reweighting to that. Okay, what Templeton said was, and Ben Graham said the same thing. Okay, let's say that's a PE of 20% allocation above. What we do is, if I say that's a CAPE of 17, let's say that's a CAPE of 25.
Yep.
Now, we know at 25 things are getting a bit iffy, right? Therefore, we should reduce our overall exposure.
Right. So this is 60% in stocks. This one at 20 would be more like 40% in stocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And now, if I say this is a CAPE of 35,
we need to be 15% in stocks.
10%.
Yeah.
Right. So but what I'm saying is, what Templeton is doing here is saying, look, as the market gets more expensive, you want to take more and more off. Now, reverse it. CAPE of 17, let's say that's a CAPE of 13.
Yep.
Okay, well, I should have 80% in stocks.
80% in, yeah.
Right? And if it's a CAPE of 10, I should have nearly 100% in stocks.
Yeah.
Right? What I'm saying is you've got to adjust your asset allocation, and we talked about this in the earnings yield. You don't just take a little bit of the profit, and this is the hard part in stocks. If you put 100 in and it goes to 100 and let's say it goes to 250, right? And you go, oh, man, I should only be 20% in stocks or whatever. What you got to do is take that 250 all the way back to 80. Now you go, oh man, I started with 100, but what we're doing is saying, but you've got to capture all that capital gain because we know that's what varies, right? The dividend standard is about 3%. It'll always go 3%. It's the capital value you got to take out.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And that means if you go from 50-50 to 80-20 or 80-20 to 50-50, well, you've got to take a big chunk out. And that's sometimes painful because the market's rising. Yeah. And you're going, oh, man, I'm selling all these stocks and the market's going up. And it's like, that's the way it works, bro.
Yeah, but if you just follow the process over the cycles, then that's why you get the win.
Yes,
right?
Because Jacob, when it crashes back down to a CAPE of 10, like we showed in the earnings yield, you go, cool, I've got all this cash.
Yeah.
Right? Like Warren Buffett. Oh, Buffett's a dickhead. He's got $325 million in cash. And it's like, and when it crashes, and he's going to be buying a lot of good stock You know,
him in his brain is this.
absolutely.
Right? He's just like, oh, no, I'll just do it.
Absolutely. Well, the Schiller PE, the Cape ratio, was actually created by Ben Graham, right? Graham said, you want to look at the business cycle and average it out, right? And Schiller called it they call it Schiller because it was just extrapolated out to a business cycle of 10 years.
Right, okay.
Right. But Ben Graham said, you want to look at the market cycle and say, well, why would I buy it if I know the earnings are going to fall and I'll get it cheaper? Right?
Oh, that's fascinating. Cool. That's great. Thanks, Steve.
No worries.
I think that's all. Hey, we'll see you guys next week. And as always, these lessons now I think are important. Download the week that was. It's free and all that spiel.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
As always, remember, we don't provide financial advice.